Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Break by Friday. Today, we are here with Cordell Robinson, who is another guest in our podcast series. Thank you very much for being here. I would like to ask you to give us a brief overview of your experience and of yourself.
Good, and thank you for having me. So my name is Cordell Robinson. I'm the CEO of Brownstone Consulting Firm. I've been doing this for 25 years, but my company's been around for 15 years. I've worked throughout the federal government and commercial space. Federal government from DoD to commercial federal spaces, and then in the commercial world, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, manufacturing companies, and I do cybersecurity work in compliance with AI governance, NIST, CMMC, to name a few, GDPR as well, and also penetration testing and things like that is what a lot of things that my team does. So I'm excited to have this discussion.
Thank you very much for joining us and for taking the time. So, I would like to start, I think, with the elephant in the room because I have a lot of people and businesses asking me about this. So, what are the top three mistakes that you think people or businesses are making right now when they are using AI powered tools? And maybe this usage actually puts them at risks against scams or data breaches and maybe how they can avoid them.
So yes, so the top three risks, one is most companies do not evaluate the AI tools that they put into their environment. So they're not asking the question like to these companies, what are the guardrails that are in place that these AI companies are putting in place? So they're just installing them because it's helps with their efficiency. It's really cool. They use avatars. They use different tools for writing things and creating documentation, videos, audio, things like that. But the guardrails is a major issue. Another issue is that the companies are not trained. So they're not making sure that their personnel are trained. So all personnel should be trained from the CEO all the way down to the most junior person throughout the company, and not in detail of knowing everything about the security of AI, but at least knowing the basics on what to do and what not to do. What data should they put in and what data should they not put in? Because there's sensitive data, there's intellectual property and things like that. And then the third thing, I would say that companies, they're more reactive instead of proactive. The attitude is, well, I'll wait till something happens before I react to a breach or anything like that, which ends up costing them more money, actually. So I think they should be more proactive and look into making sure that their personnel are properly trained, making sure that different AI companies' guardrails are in place, but making sure that they are putting their own guardrails in place in their environments locally as well.
Do you actually think that if they have like a proactive plan against a reactive plan, that they would see better results at the end of the day?
Yes, they would definitely see better results with a proactive plan because one, it'll be the ease of mind of not worrying too much about any major risk happening, major breaches happening, or any bad actors getting to their environment or sitting in their environment. And then also the cost. If something happens, it costs a lot more because a lot of times you have to rebuild your entire network or you have to basically throw out your equipment and buy all new equipment. That has happened before, even before AI. And with AI, it's going to be more prevalent. Those are some major things and reasons why to be proactive.
That sounds really reasonable for me. And I would basically like to ask you, making this transition a bit, in your experience, do you think that the rise of maybe generative AI tools has changed the techniques that scammers use nowadays?
Yes.
Could
Generative AI has changed the way cameras are used. There are some regulations on that. I know the EU AI Act talks about that a lot. So in the EU, there's a lot of legislation on generative AI and how, CC cameras are used. It cannot, measure, people's like behavior or have any prejudicial type of mechanisms in it. So that's really important because it should just be used to help people, and not for anything negative. And so one of the things I think here in the United States, which they are working on, is something similar. It just hasn't been totally implemented yet, but that's one of the things, especially with CCTV cameras. Cameras are everywhere. And if those cameras are installed and AI is not properly configured, it's going to become a major issue.
I kind of get that. Also, did you have like maybe recent attack, if you can mention anything that um, this scam maybe leveraged AI? And would you describe maybe for our listeners how they could maybe defend themselves a bit towards that?
So I wouldn't say a recent attack, but a recent attempted attack. So there were some, bad actors, and what they're using AI to send out text messages and emails. The pattern recognition was there because they clearly were probably pretty junior in what they were doing. So there was lots of pattern recognition. So you can immediately know that it was AI that was really behind it. Their whole point was trying to like lure you in to get your information. We're trying to get like personal banking information and personal address information. But since it was so obvious that it was just an AI LLM just ignoring the human response, it was quite obvious. Another one was using AI video, trying to use AI video to act like someone else. So they basically stole someone else's likeness and tried to use that. But unfortunately, the way they configured the video was very skewed. It was very obvious that it was AI, but there are some very advanced video out there that can be very dangerous. That is very hard for people to be able to tell. But I say if you look closely and also listen to the language and how they're speaking, then you can definitely recognize it.
More people are becoming aware, and it also happens in the music industry that some people are not even able to tell if something is AI generated music, for example, with
Yes,
all the rise of AI tools. So
yes.
many of our listeners use AI tools daily, either for their work or their personal productivity. So, if
Mhm.
someone is not a developer, it's a bit non technical, but still wants to use AI for their regular activities, would you recommend in order to keep their information safe when using these services, for example?
So if someone is a developer, if they can develop their own LLMs and their own agents, that probably will be best because then they know what guardrails they're putting around it and they know what code they're putting into it. If they're a developer and using a tool to build out the agents, make sure that they speak to that company that has created that tool to find out what those guardrails are that are in place. And then also check the code when they're putting it into their environment and building out those agents or LLMs. That's really important.
And if they are not a developer, if they are not technical, for example, how would these people be safe? Because they are not so aware of it, but maybe
Mhm.
like for HR, they are using it, let's say, for job descriptions. I don't know, I'm just giving a general example right now.
Right. So if they're not a developer, I would say basically contact the company of that they're using the AI from and ask some pointed questions. They can even go and Google some pointed questions that they would need to ask to find out what guardrails are in place and what's best for the work that they're doing. And also be cognizant of what data they're going to put in there, especially HR is going to have a lot of personal data. So understanding that don't use personal data or people's personal data when entering in there unless it's a closed network where it's not like going out to the internet, then it's safer. But making sure that it's closed and it's not going out to the internet to pull data, then that's another thing to pay attention to without having a strong technical background.
You have a really big experience around working both really closely with the government, but also like with private sector organizations.
Mhm.
So, what security protocols or habits would you recommend everyday people or small businesses uh, to adopt right now in order for them to be safe?
There's a lot of guidelines that are out there that can be available on the internet. So, like for example, United States, there's NIST guidance. Anyone can use it. You don't have to be the government to use it. One called NIST 800-171, which is specifically for commercial companies. So from small to large, there's different levels of it. So from small to large, they can utilize it and tailor that to their company, which is very smart. So instead of reinventing the wheel, it's already out there. So they can utilize that. And there's so many other measures out there. There's ISO 27000 as well. So implementing that at their level for their company, whether small, medium, or large. Then, EU, of course, there's GDPR. And then in United States, there's CCPA in California, which is slowly spreading throughout the United States as well for mainly privacy. So looking at those frameworks is really important. And as they look at those frameworks, just make sure they tailor those and have like, a cybersecurity person look at it. They could even not have, they don't even have to have a full-time cybersecurity person look at it, but have someone come in like a fractional person or someone for about 3 months, come in and do a quick evaluation. That would help them out a lot and let them know where they stand and then let them know what they need to do to make sure that they're following the guidelines within their organization's level or size.
Think you also offer this kind of services, right? So you can go to like other
Yes.
people's companies and businesses and implement these for them and consult them on
Yes.
what they need to do. Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
yeah,
Yes. So
great.
yeah, my company does that. We've been doing that for 15 years.
Amazing. If anyone needs it, they know where to find you. Everything will be linked down
Yes.
below. You have talked a lot about human behavior, maybe
Mhm.
as the main vulnerability in cybersecurity. I have also read a lot about context engineering and social engineering. So basically,
Mhm.
what kind of information the scammers or hackers have about
Mhm.
you and what they try to get out of you, with
Mhm.
just using maybe we would say manipulation or communication skills instead of actually code or hacking techniques. So, what story from your career you think illustrates this, and maybe you could also give us one practical advice against this?
Sure. So we do social engineering exercises all the time for commercial and government, but a lot of times for commercial companies, because in the government they practice it quite a bit, but in commercial companies they don't really practice different social engineering exercises. So as part of the cybersecurity awareness training, what we'll do is we will have like one person in the company would know that it's going to happen, and then no one else would know. So sometimes it's the CEO, sometimes it's the COO, or it's a different person, and then no one else knows. And so we send out a phishing email, or we have a few people call a few people and start asking pointed questions, but spark up a conversation
Mm-hmm.
with them, get very familiar with them, like, oh yeah, we're cool, we're old buddies, and then start to just extract information out of them. And you'll be surprised how people are so willing to just give up information once they feel comfortable. That's some exercise that we've done. Instance of it is at a company, this was a few years ago, where we did a social engineering exercise where we sent out emails to see who would click on the link, and then they seemed very real. These
Mm-hmm.
emails seemed like they were actually coming from corporate office, but they weren't. About 90% of the staff actually, clicked on the link and opened it. And then we got her, and then we didn't tell them, like, it didn't say, oh, this was phishing. It just sent us a report. And then we reported back to management saying, well, these are the list of people that clicked on it and they shouldn't have clicked on it. And when they clicked on it, when it opened to nothing. I mean, they should have known by then, but yeah, those things happen quite a bit. A lot of companies do, and a lot of companies don't do those types of phishing exercises. And I wish like all companies did it.
Think it would save them a lot of struggle at the end of the
Yes.
line. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Plus, it's good exposure.
yeah, exactly. Training actually beats the test, as they say. Uh,
Yes.
are these any red flags, for example, or maybe something that would be too good to be true? Indicators that maybe can help people to spot the new AI phishing attacks that they are happening at the moment.
Yes. So if you see something or you get an email or you get someone calls you and there's a conversation in the email or the call, and as the conversation goes, if it sounds like it's too good to be true, most likely it is fake. Think of the randomness of it all. Okay, you're not going to randomly just get a call and someone's been like, oh yeah, you just like won this, or oh, we're able to give you this wonderful vacation and just give us this information. Like that doesn't really happen nowadays that much. And so I always say think about pattern recognition and how people communicate and how people act these days with each other, and then you basically would know. And even if it's like a real person, it could be a scammer, right? So it's like looking for those patterns of like, okay, if like something that's like, if you like win something over, like you enter the sweepstakes or whatever, you win something, normally they don't like call you on the phone. Normally they like come to your house because they know like your information or something, or there's a way that they contact you where it's legitimate. And so all of these scams, they begin to look and feel the same as things go along, and especially with AI. It's I always keep going back to pattern recognition. It's the same pattern over and over again.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty useful for anyone who thinks they got any of these calls or scam attacks in their email. So moving on again to like small businesses, because I think I read a stat about that in the US there are more than 700,000 small businesses every year. Um,
Mhm.
if they are just starting out and they are struggling to allocate resources, what are maybe the highest impact and maybe lowest cost steps that you would have to advise them to do in order to protect themselves from any of these AI scams or data breaches, as we would say?
So I would say first steps, especially they're starting off, they don't have the revenue for it.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there and Google different AI, governance training and YouTube videos, because those are free.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever is free out there, go out and get those, and at least you have some type of baseline. Then make a plan as well. So make a plan and say, hey, once I get to this revenue, then I'm going to be able to bring in some professionals to really help advance us to the next level to make sure everything is secure. But at least start somewhere at zero where it's free, and then have a actual plan in place. Because if you don't have a plan in place, then complacency kicks in, and then it's 5 years later, they have plenty of revenue, but they didn't even make a plan at all. So, and then now, oh, here's a breach, and then boom, your revenue goes down because something major happens.
It's real important because as long as your site is down, you also lose revenue. We also saw
Yes.
like yesterday's incident with Cloudflare. Like Cloudflare was
Hmm.
out, so a lot of
Yeah.
websites and a lot of people were losing revenue out of this. So
Hmm.
you need to always have a backup plan, I would say, when you're dealing with technology.
And
Yeah.
also agreement and proper agreements with these companies. So like say, hey, if this goes down, because you're supposed to have guarantees in their contracts. If this
Hmm.
goes down, then I need to be, you need to compensate me, like compensate my company because, I can't afford to lose revenue. Yeah.
That's pretty useful. I didn't know that there could be something like this in the contract. I was not aware of it.
You
That's
can negotiate any contract. Most people don't know that you can, but yeah, you can negotiate any contract. You don't have to just accept it as is because you're paying them money. So if you're paying them money, say, hey, I want to kind of put these measures in place
Mhm.
because I have a small company. And if I lose this revenue, who knows what can happen?
Yeah, that's true. Hey, if we move on from small businesses to a bit of a larger organizations, maybe they have
Mhm.
established a bit themselves, they have
Mhm.
been into the revenue game, how they can like still proactively have a culture of security inside the company in order to
Mhm.
make their business a priority. And when it's not just like, as we said before, we are reacting to a problem and this is an IT issue. It's just,
Mhm.
it's our culture to avoid attacks and scams and be educated about cybersecurity.
Exactly. So with larger companies, I say one, usually they have internal like security teams in place. They have internal training in place, which is great. But I would say one of the things that a lot of companies don't do is they don't bring in an independent auditor or assessor to look at their environment. Because if you have the internal team constantly looking at it, it's just like when you're working on a project or you're writing something and you can't find your own mistakes. Like when you write a book, you need an editor to edit your book. because there's going to be some things that you miss. And the editor's like that third party. The same thing, the cyber world, you want to get that third party so you have a fresh set of eyes, a fresh take to kind of let, and then be open to deficiencies you have so that you can fix them, because the companies, people in the companies, not the companies, but people in the companies, they don't want to be told that, oh, you have this deficiency and that, after years of thinking that they did not, because they had their internal teams do it. And it's not their internal team's fault at all. It's just that if they're looking at the same thing over and over, there's things going to be eventually missed because they're used to the environment. So that third party come in and look at it, so that fresh set of eyes, and they get that fresh look, and then they're able to strengthen their security posture that way.
That's also something that I have heard a lot of people do with red teaming and blue teaming, for example.
Hmm.
And I don't know
Yes.
if you're doing also this kind of exercises as independent contractors as
Yes.
well. You do that too.
Yes.
Do you have
Yes,
a
I do.
scenario of this? For example, can you give us an
Um,
example?
Yes, several contracts that I have now, we do basically we do blue teaming and red teaming. So for some, it's constant where the third party that's in the environment. So we're assessing different systems at different times of the year, and it's like in a cycle. Then what we do is we rotate personnel around so that it's not the same third party personnel, and those fresh set of eyes are on there. Of course, we want people to get used to the technologies in the environment, but then also you want the freshness to it. So we do that. And then on the red teaming side is where we literally come in like once a year to some companies, and we'll come in and like, not the exact same time of the year, but kind of a different time, a couple months apart each year.
Mm-hmm.
And we just come in and we do like a deep dive audit. We give them know what they've done great, what deficiencies they have, and then what, in the sense we were there the year before, what has carried over issues and vulnerabilities that they have. So like, you still haven't fixed this, you still haven't fixed that. So, one company in particular, they had the same. I'm not going to say what it is because then I would be giving away what the
Yeah, yeah,
company is, and I
sure.
don't want to
Of
put them on
course.
blast.
Don't do
But
that.
but they had the same deficiency for like 8 years, and it was the same
Wow.
thing. And then finally, another entity came in to look, and they told them the exact same thing that we told them. But they weren't looking as an auditor, they were looking to say, okay, we want to do business with you, blah blah blah. And so they were like, well, you need to fix this before we sign that contract. And so then they told us, was like, hey, yeah, they said it. I was like, yeah, so I mean, you got to like listen to your red teamers. So it was a great lessons learned. We laughed about it, and on the ball, so it's been great.
What tools would you recommend or frameworks in when you're performing maybe security assessments? And maybe let's go into people that they are not so technical. Maybe how they can
Mhm.
assess their own systems and maybe check if they have been breached or if
Mhm.
they have anything on their system that it's malicious, let's say.
Okay, so one of the basic things that can be done is like a basic vulnerability scan. So there's vulnerability scanners out there. There's like Nessus, Tenable Nessus, and there's Qualys, and there's several other ones. You have to be a little technical, but not really. If you have someone that's competent and they read the instructions and how to set it up and how to do it, they can run at least a basic scan. They may not be able to run like a deep dive scan like technical professional, but at least a basic scan of the network to find out, okay, I do have these vulnerabilities, and then at least they have some idea of what's going on. So I would say do that. As for frameworks, every company, no matter what, should have one or two people in their company learn the basics of the NIST frameworks or whatever NIST framework that would pertain to them. So learn that if there's a lot of privacy, like law offices, looking at CCPA or GDPR, looking at SOX, which is Sarbanes-Oxley, making sure that have someone that's has a little bit of knowledge within their organization so they can kind of look out for those things. So when they do have audits or assessments, they at least it's not going to be like a disaster. It's not going to be like all of these things that they're like, oh my gosh, we have to spend all this money to fix all these things, because at least they've been a little proactive and it doesn't really cost that much, because these things are out there, they're free, or they're very little, they don't cost that much money. The tools do cost money, but they don't cost that much money to get. So at least doing those little basics before bringing in the professionals, it always helps.
Yeah, that's great. And so if you are not so technical, doing at least some work by yourself to know what's going on.
Yes. Yes.
maybe gives you a bit more of a direction, as we would say. So, from all of this conversation that we have done, you have given multiple advices and multiple insights. So, if someone would take one actionable step, if they are like a non technical person or if they are a business, what would that be?
Would say the first actionable step that they should take is making sure that everyone in the company gets cybersecurity awareness training. At least invest in that if you can. If not, there's some online training, at least until you can invest into it.
Mm-hmm.
But get someone to come in and provide your company some actual real interactive cybersecurity awareness training where they actually are going to run through scenarios and live exercises, because once people are aware and once they actually experience it firsthand, that really helps everybody, because awareness, because are the weakest link when it comes to all of this. And so once the people are aware, then that's going to strengthen your company tenfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Also, as we are closing up, I think you are one of the people that maybe I can ask this question. So, as AI is shifting and more tools are out there, how do you see the threat landscape to shift in the next 3 years, let's say? Because we are seeing how fast AI is moving at the moment, and maybe what are the most undervalued skills at the moment about being safe in this market that everything is going so fast?
The threat is going to be immense from just past conversations and experience in the past couple years. It's going to be immense because so many companies are disregarding the governance of AI, which is a huge red flag. And so it's going to become a major problem, as these breaches are going to be like a virus. It's just going to infiltrate so many different entities globally. And when I say infiltrated it, I mean, we're talking about shutting down water plants and power grids, and network outages, more network outages throughout different companies. So it's going to be major unutilized skill set. Or some skill sets is one, everybody at least get some basic training in AI, but then have some people get a little bit more advanced training in AI, and ensure that training includes some type of security and governance of AI, because just training how to use AI, that's not going to do anything. But having that governance layer on there is going to be so crucial and so important, and it's going to really help these companies avoid the major breaches and issues that are going to continuing to like expand beyond recognition over the next few years.
Yeah, I agree a lot, and everyone needs to be safe in this era that AI shifts a lot and moves so
Definitely.
fast. Yeah, exactly. So I would like to thank you for your time. This was a wonderful conversation, and I learned so many things that I didn't know before you came as a guest to this podcast. Maybe you can also share where people can find you, and I will leave all the links that you will share with me in the show notes below so people can click and find out more about you and your company.
Problem. So I could be found on LinkedIn, Cordell Robinson.
Hmm.
Also, Brownstone Consulting Firm is there. It's under the same account. Also, my website, www.b as in boy, c as in Charlie, f as in Foxtrot, us.com. That's my US website. We are launching a international website where we int.com coming in the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
And then also I have an IG, Brownstone underscore consulting underscore firm, and it's going to be same across all socials coming soon.
That's great. So, thank you very much for joining us. And I just hope everyone stays safe in this AI era that we are facing.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.